All right, everybody. Welcome to our Business Smart workshop. My name is Greg Jones. I am a business advisor. I'm one of about 30 advisors across the state of Oklahoma. I'm here in Oklahoma City, and I am located at Restore OKC. You can see my information there on the screen. And then to the right is our team. We have a fantastic team of advisors and folks that support us in our state office. And I want you to get an idea as I talk today and as I provide you some information. There is a whole plethora of folks that are behind the scenes working on your behalf. And so, how are we going to get started today? Some of you may know what SBD stands for, but if you don't, it is the Small Business Development Center. And what we do is we provide confidential, high quality, no cost entrepreneurial small business advisement. Okay. And we are in the state of Oklahoma. We cover all 77 counties, and we are committed for businesses to grow one business at a time. So whether you're joining us today and you're in business or you have an idea for a business, you're in the right place. And I think the information that we'll provide for you today will be very helpful. You can see our map here of Oklahoma, and you can see all lovely 77 counties. We were established in 1984, and you can see where there are stars where we actually have a presence, a location, but we again cover the entire state. We have some wonderful partnerships with colleges, universities, chambers. I mentioned to you just a few minutes ago, I'm actually at a nonprofit organization. These partnerships help us be able to have a presence throughout the state of Oklahoma. We get this question all the time, and so I want to answer it for you. How are we funded? The United States Small Business Administration, better known as the SBA, provides us federal funding, which requires a dollar for dollar match. Remember, I talked about some of those partnerships in the last slide? A lot of our state funding and host partnerships provide that required match. What does that mean for you? When I talked about that we provide high quality, no cost confidential advising, that's how it gets paid for, by our wonderful partners that are providing that match with the Small Business Administration. Now, when you think about expertise of our advisors, look at the list here and we'll give you a pretty good idea of the type of expertise that we have. Obviously, as one person or one advisor, I don't have all the knowledge, but when you spread that out over the course of all of our advisors, we have a plethora of information that can help ideate your idea or your small business. You can see here accounting, e-commerce, government contracting, human resources, real estate, restaurants, startups. And I want to point out really three of them. At the bottom left, you'll see international trade. We have a specialized unit that really helps entrepreneurs that are thinking about doing business in other countries, and it's our international trade team. So we specialize that. We have a tech commercialization unit. You go to the bottom right, that really helps folks as they're thinking about technology-related types of businesses. And I want to point out, whether you're like me in an urban area like Oklahoma City or you're in rural Oklahoma, our goal is to service all of our clients that we have in these areas. And then at the very top of the second column is marketing research. Fantastic opportunity, marketing research team, to pull research data that can help you really think about your business and how to make your business more effective. And we're going to talk about that in just a minute. Our agenda for today. Our agenda is really these 6 areas. We're going to talk about market feasibility. We're going to, when you think about market feasibility, how viable is your business idea in the market? We're going to talk about the business plan, which is really thinking about steps to create a roadmap for your business success. Most people are one of our most common questions that we get. We're going to talk about today's legal structure. What is the right legal entity for my business? One of my favorites on the list, and I see some of your eyes getting big, is funding. How do I get money for my business? And we're going to talk about exploring some business options and financing options for your business venture. And then we're going to easily talk about business name and registration and a new federal law that was given to us this year that was enacted in 2024 called the Beneficial Ownership Information. So that's going to be our agenda for today. So I'm going to ask you to get ready and let's dive right in. All right, we're going to start with market feasibility. First thing you've got to do is you've got to identify potential gaps in the market. What is it that your business can do that fits in the marketplace? And when I say market, what area? Is it the area in which you live in? Is it several areas spanned across a particular county? What is the actual market opportunity? Is it a product that you have? Is it a service? Is it a combination of both? Second thing you have to do is you've got to clearly define who your customer is, who your target customer is. That's important. Then we got to figure out, is anybody else doing what I want to do? That's our competitor. And we've got to do a what? Competitor analysis. And we got to figure out who's doing what we do, what are their strengths, what are their weaknesses, and then what competitive advantage do I actually have? And so I love to, when I think about market feasibility, I always bring up my M&M example. Did you know that there are 400 million M&Ms that are produced on a daily basis? Not daily, a year. 400 million M&Ms are produced every year. Now, if you're thinking about, like I'm thinking, I have my favorite color. I've always wondered, all the M&Ms out there, how many, what's the percentage of those that are produced are blue? Actually, it's the highest percentage, 24%. Some of you are thinking, well, my favorite color is green, 16%. Well, these numbers are important because it understands the market opportunity. It defines the customer. Who are the competitors with M&M, right? Who else is trying to be like M&M? There's a distinct taste and flavor and colors, and obviously the distinct M that you see on each one of them. So that brings us to our next point, market research. We got to figure out demographics. We got to figure out what are the economic indicators, what's going on right now in the state of Oklahoma, what's going on across the country that I need to be aware of that might affect my business or my business idea. What potential locations am I looking at? Am I going to be an online business, an e-commerce? What does that landscape look like? We talked about earlier competitors. That has to do with market saturation, right? Is there a lot of people doing what I do? Now, I happen to love hamburgers. And some of you got your eyes got big because we're thinking about lunch now. But I like hamburgers, okay? And so growing up, McDonald's was okay, but I really like Burger King because I could do what? Have it my way. Now, as I've grown older, and there's some local places here that are just fantastic. There's a place called Geronimo's. Geronimo's puts those two patties, cheese, special soft lettuce, all that stuff on toasted buns, right? I've got to understand who's actually in the market. What do they do? What the demand size is, demographics. Secondly, psychographics. Now, I don't know if you've heard that term before, but that's really based upon social status, thinking about interest and opinion. What are people interested in? So my favorite is, and I'm not going to ask how many folks here drive a truck, but there are three distinct truck commercials that I always see around this time of the year. Chevy Silverado, the Dodge Ram, and what? Built for Tough, right? How do they create those commercials for those that like trucks and they attract them? It's psychographics. They're picking up things that people are interested in, their opinions, and that's actually how they pull together a lot of times commercials based on that market research, which can be very, very important. Okay. Now, there are two types of research that you need to be aware of. One is primary research. That's conducting surveys, polls, focus groups, interviews. You're actually talking to people, understanding what it is that you have, what you want to do, whether product or service, how people feel about that. And why is that important? Because if you have a product and you want to sell that product, you got to make sure that people want it. What do they think about it? Okay. I'm a baker and I bake goods, and I think I got the best sugar cookie out there. But guess what? Everybody else thinks they do. So primary research, I would do some pop-ups. I would take it around. I'd have a survey. I would test the market out. If I'm a service-related business, I might do the same thing. Okay. And the reason why I'm doing that is I'm trying to get feedback. And in some of our other workshops that we'll talk about, by the way, SBDC does a variety of virtual workshops all the time, and they're all at no cost, just like this one. So I want you to keep that in mind as well. The second one is what? Secondary research. That's analyzing existing reports, databases, trying to gain some marketing insights to make sure you understand, again, when you're thinking about your product or service, when you think about market feasibility, you want to make sure that you can identify, define your customer, and then you are developing a plan that we'll talk about in just a little bit that actually will help you go after what it is that you want to get accomplished. Remember, oftentimes when I'm talking to clients, one of the questions comes up is, I want to be in business. What's one of the number one rules of business? A business does what? Is designed to make money. Okay. And so doing your proper research helps you widen that margin of how much money you can make. And sometimes it's not just about revenue, and we'll talk about this in a little bit when we get the business plan. It's about that profit as well. All right, now let's talk just for a minute about competitive analysis. You got to identify direct and indirect customers, okay? And when I talk about direct customers are those customers that have a direct competition with you. Again, if I was talking about hamburgers, my example, so McDonald's and Burger King and Geronimo's and The Garage and Tucker's are places here locally, right? They're direct competitors. They all sell what? Hamburgers. Taco Bell, however, if you think about McDonald's for a minute, always tends to show up on one of the opposite corners of or nearby a McDonald's. Well, they sell tacos, okay? Are they a direct competitor? No. Are they an indirect competitor? Yes. Why are they indirect? They don't sell the same thing, but they are trying to get what? An additional market based on that market that's going for McDonald's. So understand you got a direct and indirect competitors. The cool thing about all this is I'm talking to you. Some of you are thinking like, I need some help figuring that out. We'll talk about it at the end, how you connect with an SBDC advisor and help you be able to do that. Secondly, SWOT analysis. Some of you have heard this term. S stands for strengths, W for weaknesses, O for opportunities, T for threats. A SWOT analysis identifies for your competitors what they do well. I can go out there and I can Google. I can go in and visit that particular company. I can sample a product. What do they do well? Their packaging, their marketing, their customer experience. Maybe that's a strength. Maybe it's a weakness. You got to identify that. A lot of times, things that are weaknesses for your competitors are opportunities for you. Okay. And you've also got to think about threats. We all remember COVID and what COVID had for us. Nobody thought that was coming. Nobody thinks about cybersecurity. Nobody thinks about their information being taken or stored. Nobody thinks about insurance, right? These are what? Threats to your business. And so as an SBDC advisor, I'm always thinking about what do our competitors do well and relating that to what I need to be able to do well as well. We call that a SWOT analysis. And so one of the things that you can do is SWOT, and you can actually list out the competitor, what you think their strengths are, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. Okay. It's a great way and a great exercise to get you started. And then I would say ongoingly, you want to make sure that periodically you're doing this. You're staying in tune with your competitors because competitors change and they're always trying to get a little bit better. They're adding services to what they're doing. They're adding products to what they're doing. And so you want to make sure that you stay up with the competitors so that you understand what that is. Now, I absolutely love unique value proposition. If you are looking at me right now, this is your UVP. This is the thing that stands apart from anyone else. What is unique about your product or service? What's so special about it? Okay. What are the benefits that customers will experience? How are you going to stand out amongst the competition? What will you do to position your company? Okay, in your mind, UVP, UVP. What is unique? When you introduce yourself to someone, what is your unique value proposition? People need to know that, but you have to know that. What's unique about you, the benefits that your customers will experience, what stands out amongst the competition. Why will people keep coming back to you? That is your UVP. All right, let's dive into the business plan. Now, the business plan has a plethora of things that it is designed for, but primarily it is your roadmap. It does a couple of things. It provides direction for your business. It helps you validate your business idea. It is a planning tool. It has in there core metrics and goals, and you can use words interchangeably. Some people will say key performance indicators, but the point is it validates your business idea. It takes me from concept, it takes me my UVP, unique value proposition. It says, okay, here's what products I'm going to offer or services I'm going to offer. It talks about how I'm going to market those products and services. It talks about how I'm going to what tools I'm going to use. It gives an organizational overview of my business, who does what. It establishes financial projections so that I understand how my business will actually produce revenue and profit, not in just 1 year, but 2 years or 3 years. It is the tool that provides you directions. Here's what I want you to think about when you think about a business plan. Think about a floor plan in a house. Every room in the house looks a little bit different and has potentially different functionalities to it. It's the same thing with the business plan. But when you think about it, all those things come together, complete a house. It's very similar with the business plan. And I just mentioned that. The one that I would add here, it also has an operations plan. So it really gives you an idea of how your business will actually operate. When you see sales and marketing, sometimes people tie those two things together, but a sales plan actually is a little different than a marketing plan. And now with the use of AI, there are tools out there to help get us to think differently, help us to get started differently, provide us information a little quicker. I would advise you against allowing AI, for example, to write your entire business plan. It is a valuable tool, and your SBDC advisor can talk about that. But it is a tool that you can have that will also help you as we work through the steps of your business plan. All right. Now, part of our agenda we talked about, we need to understand a little bit about legal structure and why that's important to us. In the state of Oklahoma, it's very easy to get your business registered. And I've got a slide that will actually talk about your business registration. But the simplest form of a legal structure is a sole proprietor, okay? Simply put, it is me, a single business owner that owns my business, and I have and retain all of the responsibility and all of the liability for my business, okay? So I go out and I start the Greg Jones Lawn Care business. No problem. I go out, I'm going to be a sole proprietor, and I'm going to go out and start cutting grass. I set up my pricing structure. I put together my business plan. Okay. How does that affect me? Okay. The way it simply affects me is I'm responsible for the business. I'm responsible for the taxes. I'm taxed personally, all of that. Okay. You slide all the way to the right, you see an LLC. Well, it combines what they call liability with the protection that gives you tax flexibility. What does that mean? It separates me from the business. Jones Lawn Care is separate from Greg Jones. Greg Jones owns the Jones Lawn Care, but Jones Lawn Care has its own entity. That's interesting. What does that do? Well, now as I'm out there working in my business, I hire people and I have employees. And one of my employees goes out, cuts a yard, and hits a rock, boop, hits a glass window, and it breaks. Who's responsible? Jones Lawn Care under an LLC versus a sole proprietor, Greg Jones. So when you start thinking about that, what does an LLC do? It provides you some protection. It is probably the most common form of a legal structure that we typically see, okay, is an LLC. You also have partnership. It's more than one person that owns the business. They form a partnership together, and that can be a part of your legal structure. And then you have S Corp and C Corp options as well that are also separate legal entities. So wanted to give you an overview because it's a common question that we get. And oftentimes where we tend to recommend is separating your personal liability from your business because it does provide you with some legal protections. And in this case, oftentimes that recommendation is an LLC. We always suggest anytime you have legal structure questions to seek legal counsel for that. But again, we can provide you with lots of information to give you the distinctions between all four of these. Some of the things to consider there as you're thinking about legal structure, tax treatment, and your ability to raise money. You see that word capital, we're talking about raising money, and then transfer of ownership. Okay, what happens if all of a sudden I'm ready to retire or a succession plan, or something bad happens to me and I'm no longer here? How does ownership happen? And there are differences when you have, depending on the type of legal structure you have. S Corp, I get asked about quite a bit. You can actually become an employee of your own business when you can pay yourself a reasonable salary. Okay, when is that, and when do I do that? Again, our disclaimers always is to contact anybody, a legal representative, to kind of walk you through that, CPA or an accountant. But we can provide you as an advisor lots of valuable information and start helping you at least understand how to make those decisions. Okay, now. One of my favorite parts of this presentation is talking about funding. And how much money do you have as your personal investment? That's owner's capital. That's one of the first questions you need to ask yourself. Have I put some dollars away? Do I have some assets that are available to me that I can utilize as a source of capital? That's my personal investment, okay? You also have people that are outside of that. They're external individuals or entities that potentially can provide you with capital. Those are called investors, okay? I wanted to come invest in your business, right, and set my own terms and conditions. I'm going to give you X, and in return, you're going to give me equity back, or this is how you're going to pay me back. That's an investor model, okay? And it doesn't mean you can't have a combination of several of these, okay? But these are some ideas and sources of funding that you need to be aware of as you're thinking about your business. Loans, obviously, are borrowed funds from banks or other financial institutions, and you really need to understand that process. What is one of the first things that any investor or a bank or financial institution is going to ask for? Guess what it is? A business plan. That's why that business plan is so important. Because why? It substantiates on paper what it is, who you are, what you want to get accomplished, and they can see very clearly when that's completed how your business is going to operate, how much money it's going to bring in, it's going to generate, what your expenses look like. It does a great job with that. Now, if you haven't heard of the last one there, which is called what? Crowdsourcing, okay? That's where there are the ability to raise small amounts of money from a large number of people. So I'm going to give you an example of one. It's called Kiva, Kiva, kiva.org. They're a nonprofit crowdsourcing agency. And what they do is it's not really based on credit. It's based on your story. You have the ability to do what? Go in there, generate your idea, express your idea. It goes before a panel. They take a look at that. And let's say they approve you for $4,000, okay? Then they will say something like, okay, Greg, I want you to go out and find 6 people that will be willing to donate, invest in your business, $25. That's kind of considered your collateral or your down payment. right? So you get 5 or 6 people to do that based on their instructions. And once you do that, they put it out on their platform, which is virtual. They put it out on their platform and they allow other people, normal people like you and me, to go out and invest in your business. Okay. And let's say the total of $4,000 was raised. That's crowdfunding. Okay. It takes a crowd, raises the money. It's a loan, but it's paid back at 0% interest. That could be nice, right? So understanding how some of these crowdfunding models or sources work. Now, the number 2 question that I get, you think the number 1 question is grants, but it really is, it's number 2 questions. The number 1 question is about, I didn't know that I had to actually put my own money into the business. That's the number 1 question. Number 2 question is grants. Greg, I'm seeing grants on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, on the website all the time. It's telling me there are grants. There are grants that exist, but here's my honest feedback for you. I've had lots of clients apply for grants and none of them have gotten a grant. Okay. So are there grants out there? But remember, it's usually very easy for you to apply for. That's flag number 1, because if it's very easy, guess what? Millions of people are applying for that grant, and your likelihood goes way down. So the grants that I see that are most successful are when there's a grant application. It's tied to your local community. It's through contacting your local chamber of commerce, your county. It's tied to an organization, a business accelerator, and oftentimes it's not physical dollars. It's technical assistance that's provided. And so I always recommend to you, if you're not familiar with your local city council, you're not familiar with your local economic development office or your county office, get familiar with them. But again, don't hesitate to contact your SBDC advisor, because guess what? We can help get you connected to those folks and then look at what opportunities might exist within those entities. So the question about funding is one that's broader. There are also other avenues, but these are probably the main ones: owner capital, investors, loans, crowdsourcing, crowdfunding, they call it, and then looking at the ability to secure a grant. I wanted to cover a couple of things on business name and registration. Some of you have registered your business, and if you have, I want you to keep something in mind. Every year you have to renew your business with the state, okay? Right now that fee is about $25, but every year you have to renew it. And oftentimes you don't get a renewal notice. So if you've registered your business, keep that in mind. If you haven't, Secretary of State, sos.ok.gov, again, you're going to get the slide deck. You're going to see this, but you go to the Secretary of State website and you can actually do everything online. Now, what I always advise is get with your SBDC advisor. That's what we're here for. Number 1, we can actually walk you through the process. We can do a call like this, share our screen. We can show it to you. We can walk you through it. But you've got to figure out, does anyone else have the business name that I want? So we always recommend doing a Google search. You're going to have to do that on the Secretary of State website anyway, to see if your business name has been taken. If it hasn't been taken, guess what? It is actually available. You can register your legal entity. There is this thing called doing business as. So I am Greg Jones doing business as Jones Lawn Care, right? Greg Jones is the LLC in this case, but I can establish a doing business as Jones Lawn Care. Because when I go out and do lawn business, guess what? People want to know that I'm a business. So DBA is a way that you can actually set up your entity name. Once you do that, you've got to do what? Get your employee identification number. That's at the irs.gov, or it's called a tax ID number. Okay. It's free. Okay. By the way, registering with the Secretary of State, there is a fee for that. Right now, that fee is right around about $110 or so. And then annually, that renewal, I think I mentioned earlier, is about $25. So then you get your employee identification number, tax ID number, that's free, the IRS. And then you can establish your domain name. And then most of the times what an advisor will recommend, you do that, and then you establish an operating agreement. We can give you some samples of operating agreement, but again, we'd always recommend that you have someone give you some advice that has an attorney or someone that has some legal expertise on an operating agreement. And then you establish a small business account, okay? And a small business checking account, then viabilize to do what? One thing as you start your business, keep your personal assets separate from your business. There's one thing that you can remember about starting a business. You have to, you need to, you should keep it separate, okay? That's how you can get in trouble. And we talked about earlier having the separate legal entity of an LLC. If I'm commingling my personal funds with my business funds, if I ever got audited, they're gonna say, well, you're not a business because your personal funds and your business funds are all together. So it really doesn't make a difference. So you got to make sure you keep it separate. I get asked this question a lot. Well, Greg, when I first started my business, the business has no money. You absolutely can take personal money and put it into your business, right? What I'm talking about is spending money on personal items, right? My groceries, my rent, or my mortgage payment, right? There's a way to do that, and your SBDC advisor can tell you about that, but you want to make sure you're not commingling your money together. All right, I'm going to go into this. There's a few slides on this. This is a new called the Beneficial Ownership Information Act that is put in place this year, 2024. It's called the Corporate Transparency Act and Beneficial Ownership Information Reporting Requirements. So if you establish your business, you already have an established business, you're required to fill this form out by the end of the year. If you are a new business, you have about 90 days to get this form filled out. Okay, the law really creates and designed to make it harder for people that are not really doing the right thing. They are people in other countries that are trying to establish businesses, companies in the United States or in Oklahoma. And so what this report will do is your business reports who you are, substantiates who you are, your identification, all of that kind of stuff. So you're not deemed one that would be considered, quote unquote, a bad actor. There's the specifications on that. There's a web page. Again, you're going to get the slide deck to understand where you can go out there. And actually, what we're going to do is we'll make sure that when you take a look at this, it's pretty easy. There's some FAQs, some videos, there's a resource guide out there. But know that all companies are now required to complete this. There are a few companies that have exceptions, and when you read the information, those exceptions are pointed out. Here are some of the things you need to know about that. It says a beneficial owner is any individual who directly or indirectly owns at least 25% of the ownership interest of the reporting company, and they have substantial control over a reporting company, okay? And so just keep that in mind there. And then this is the information that you would have to complete as part of the form. Obviously, your legal name, your trade name, address, your state, your tax ID number. And again, it's a way that this is what will be required on the actual application that you would complete. And then what happens is that information is sent in. It is a separate form, so it doesn't have to do with the Secretary of State. And that information is processed, and then it would be kept on file. Again, you have questions about that, your SBDC advisor will be more than happy to walk you through that information, okay? All right, now as we start to think about employees within the company, remember that FEIN, Federal Employee Identification Number, that tax ID number, you have to have that if you have employees. You have to withhold federal and state payroll taxes. You have to pay unemployment taxes. You must pay Social Security taxes. And if you have employees, you have to pay workers' comp insurance. Some of you are going to say, Greg, what about when I just contract with folks? Okay, there are special rules around that. And again, we can provide you some advisement around that. And also we can point you into some legal direction to make sure you know that. I only contract with folks. I don't have employees. There are some specific rules and guidelines around that to make sure that you do that in the right way. They've gotten a lot stricter over the last number of years, making sure people understand when you can just contract out 1099 someone versus count them or consider them an employee. And so just keep that in mind, that there are some specific guidelines around that, and your SBDC advisor can help you with that information. Some other things that you need to make sure you have: your W-4, there's an I-9, there's also a new hire report. And I first started my business long before I became an SBDC advisor. These are all the things I just didn't know about. And so it's making sure that you have the right records, you are prepared to have the right information, so that you stay compliant. Business compliance is a big deal when you start a business. Yeah, I got a great idea. Yeah, I think I know I got my business plan, but what else is included in that? And there are some things that we can help walk you through that you need to make sure that you actually have in place and you continue to update over time. Okay. Or people on their team will just hire a good CPA or an accountant to do all this stuff. But it's important that you understand as a business owner what is required and what's not required. Okay, we're starting to wind down now. So, and we're going to get to, if you have any questions, and you put those in the chat, we're going to get to those in just a minute. But some of the next steps, okay? One, connect with the Oklahoma Small Business Development Center advisor. Some of you on this call may already have an advisor, been assigned an advisor. So I would suggest to you some of the things that I'm going to mention to you here. Have some of this stuff ready. Like when you meet with your advisor, like here are the things that I'm ready to talk about. Okay. SMART goals. S, specific. Here's what I want to get accomplished. Here's my business idea, or I'm in business. Here's what I'm doing. Here's where I'm stuck. Here's where I need help. What are your measurable goals? What are the things that you're considering to measure success? Like, have an idea of that. So it's not just an idea, but here looked at the competitors. I've looked at where I live. Maybe it's government contracting. Maybe you're part of a tribe. You're trying to figure out, where can I actually plug in locally or statewide to have my business idea heard and seen. And so those are measurable kinds of things. Is what you want to do attainable? Do you have this goal that really is a 5-year goal or a 10-year goal? What are the first steps in that? Is it attainable? Do you think it's attainable? Right? And so that's something else to realize. And is it relevant? Does it mean something to you? Those of you that are in business or thinking about business, you may know this. If you don't, it is hard work. It has to be relevant. You have to have something that means something to you, to want to make a difference. And then your time frame. Okay. Do you have reasonable time frames? Talk to people all the time. I want to start my business next week. Okay. We need more time than that. Okay. Your SBDC advisor can help you with that. But at least thinking through some of these kinds of things will prepare you for that meeting. Some of you already have an advisor. You're like, hey, when I get my next meeting, here are some things I want to be prepared to talk about. And I think it will help you as well. If you haven't signed up with SBDC, I'm going to give you the way to do that. Okay. There's our website, www.oksbdc.org. There's a phone number, but it's easy to go to the website, request advising button, click that button. There's information there for you to fill out. Remember, everything that we do is confidential and no cost business advising. So hopefully this information over the last, I guess we've been talking now for about 35 minutes, probably feels like a fire hose to some of you. Others are like, man, I am ready to go. Okay, so you've got instructions here. I'm going to leave this slide up. Write that website down, take a picture of that so that you have that information so you know your next steps. And here's the other thing I tell you, spread the word. If you know someone else that's trying to get their business started, been in business for a long period of time, and just has a question, this is what we're here for.